Chapter 437. Because of this, Yudhir decided to quell his confusion and take some time to investigate the phenomena related to Kishir and his dreams. The next day, just after dawn, the whole of the Aur Empire was turned upside down multiple times. Firstly, the news of the illegal trade secretly orchestrated by Duke Tain and the arrest of the people involved in the secret auctions held in Tenno were publicly announced with the emperor's approval. The news itself was shocking, but what took everyone by surprise was that it had been uncovered by the cavalry which had gone to the west for monster subjugation and Duke Paleta. Duke Paleta was known to be staying briefly in Tenno to wrap things up after the monster subjugation. Amidst this, the fact that he had captured those involved in illegally kidnapping awakeners and buying dangerous items illegally had led straight back to Baron Wilhelm and Duke Tain. This revelation had many expressing their fears and sighs. The cavalry spared no nobles who had participated in the illegal auction and revealed each of their names. The fact that many of the Apeto family who had previously fled justice were among them hardly surprised anyone at this point. With this development, rumors that Duke Paleta was the new owner of the Divine Sword no longer seemed to like a simple joke. The cavalry also began to attract much more attention than before they had left for the west. However, despite all these astonishing achievements, people still knew very little about Duke Paleta and the cavalry. Some insisted that it was all an exaggeration, claiming that Duke Paleta wasn't capable enough to accomplish such feats. Others recoiled at rumors that he was an egregious philanderer who always had men by his side. While many spun conspiracy theories about the true nature of the incidents in the distant west, one thing was clear: Duke Tain's family had not denied any of it. Not even the Duke's cousin, the head of the Imperial Knights, Theodaro, nor the influential elders of the Tain family, who had retired to a life of obscurity, showed any signs of protest. Nobles who supported Duke Tain protested, claiming the allegations were preposterous. But the fact that the influential members of the Tain family did not defend him was highly suggestive. Gossip lovers speculated that this revealed long-standing internal discord within Duke Tain's family. The theory that family members had momentarily allied with the emperor to overthrow the current duke gained considerable traction. As if to confirm these rumors, no sooner had the news of the duke facing trial been announced than the family quickly convened a meeting to announce the previously vacant successor. Priscilla von Tain, the second daughter, who had been shrouded in secrecy, was granted the authority to manage family affairs. Her older brother, Pruel von Tain, who had been considered the most likely next duke, announced his full support for Priscilla's succession. The current duke's sole wife and mother of all his children, Duchess Claudine, also declared a letter sent for her distant southern villa that she would abide by the decisions made in the family council, thus supporting her children. Opinions across different strata of the empire were quite divided on this news. Duke Diarca and those who followed him had defended Duke Tain, asserting that putting a noble family that had led their dukedom for 1,000 years on trial solely based on some voices within the family and the emperor's will without clear evidence was historically unprecedented. Of course, his defense was not because he was fond of Duke Tain. Those who followed Duke Diarca were wary of Duke Tain's trial that had come to light shortly after the Apeto affair, as well as any potential rise in the emperor's faction as a result. The Crown Prince Kashtian, who had been keeping silent for unclear reasons, did not express his opinion, but people naturally assumed that what Duke Diarca said reflected his own thoughts as well. As for the Apeto dukedom, its firstborn son Ashes, who was not capable of managing his own family, and Duke Herne, who was recovering in his homeland, did not openly object like Duke Diarca, but indirectly showed their intent on keeping an eye on the situation. Most nobles were uneasy at the upheaval in yet another ancient dukedom, but also predicted that it was merely an internal shift in another family's power and nothing significant would change. In reality, many had disappeared after the tragedy of the Apito family, and even the Duke of Apito had fallen. But months had passed, and the majority believed that not much had actually changed. The fact that Ashes, who had become the acting Duke of Apito, had not followed the emperor as closely as expected had significantly contributed to this sense of relief. Everyone knew that the emperor didn't have enough power to engage the nobles in open conflict. He was struggling to prevent becoming a mere puppet, bolstering his power through the cavalry and Duke Paleta. But what could someone who didn't even show his face actually achieve? Many nobles oscillated between caution and dismissiveness. The empire's court calendar was once again filled with a new series of large scale trials after a period of quiet following the Apito family tragedy. And again, all eyes were on this matter. Ordinary people living outside the realm of politics were angry at the crimes committed by Duke Tain and grateful for the swift action by the emperor and Duke Paleta. Some neighboring countries hurriedly distanced themselves, fearing revelations of illegal trade, while other foreign lands watched the unfolding events with great interest for their own gain and curiosity. But the attention wasn't solely political. A minister from one country emphasized the central role of the cavalry in handling this affair and strongly advocated for creating a similar organization in his own nation. Latecomers to the study of the Awakeners also emerged. Though the empire's nobles barely paid attention, the cavalry, the only organization that had successfully gathered the mysterious Awakeners, were taking steps that increasingly held a different meaning than before. And Nydir Ale considered one of the key figures in the cavalry, burdened with the weighty task of attempting something crucial with Duke Paleta that night, stood behind Kishir listening to the conversations. Is it the final list of members then? Yes, everyone here will become part of the Western Branch. Kishir had gotten to work at an incredible speed, setting up the Western Branch immediately upon waking. No one had expected that he would finalize the list of members and explain the structure to them in just a few hours. If Baron Kiolt were to fully replace Baron Wilhelm, the operations of the cavalry's local branch could commence immediately with just a single approval. Such with the efficiency and perfection of the arrangements. The faces of those who would soon become members of the cavalry's unit's Western Branch were filled with tension as they looked at Kishir. Yudhis specifically noticed the expression of the face of Emun Philang, who was standing among them. All those joining the branch were volunteers, and surprisingly, Emun was the first to raise his hand, expressing his desire to become a part of the Western Branch. The reason Emun, who typically avoided drawing attention to himself, stepped forward was simple. He wanted to continue assisting the memory lost individuals and the Awakeners who were victims of the human trafficking whom he had been caring for alongside Lusan. Even as he stuttered with a flushed face, his intent was clear. Recognizing this, Kishir immediately appointed Emun as the acting head of the Western Branch. Very well, Emun. It's best for you to get accustomed to the work by participating in the conclusion of this current matter alongside the deputy commanders. Yes, I will. The first task for the Western Branch will be to look after and protect the Star of Nagran left here, as well as the awakened individuals who are struggling in the West. It won't be easy to oversee so many people, but I trust you. The matter of the Star of Nagran had not yet been officially announced. Kishir planned to complete all investigations regarding them and, depending on the severity of their crimes, segregate them for management within the Western Branch. Emun's face lit up with renewed determination at Kishir's words. I understand. I will do my best. Good. The next group Kishir met were individuals sent by Emperor Kalusa to Tainu to investigate the secret auction more systematically. They respectively knelt before Kishir, who had come to greet them, and received an update on the work carried out by both the cavalry and the Peleta knights. From this point on, they would be responsible for investigation and punishment of the western region, taking over from the cavalry after their departure.